My name is Mitch, and welcome to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going over how I make my webcomic 100 years later on Webtoon right now. I just previously released chapter 5, and I hope to keep releasing chapters every week. And before we get started, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out and really motivates me to continue making videos like these. And if you have any other suggestions on what kind of videos you want me to make, please let me know in the comments down below. So this is the panel of chapter 5, which again just previously was released. And this is kind of what it looks like when it's finished. In this video, I'm going to be going over pretty much everything from making the file, adding the files, not so much drawing. There's a lot of other tutorials on my channel for how to do that as well. And there's really a lot of other videos I would probably recommend you check out on this topic as well, because everyone kind of has a different method on how to make webtoons, and I don't really think there's a right answer. But you might be making it in a different way, and you might see something that I do that you might want to use and hopefully be able to make your comics a lot faster. Closed out of everything, we're just going to go ahead and make a new one, just kind of show you how it is. If you don't have EX, what I would recommend doing is just making I think the default or the required, or I think it has to be exactly 800 by 1280, I believe, or somewhere around that. I wouldn't recommend just doing so many different pages of that because it's going to be hard to kind of do it in a vertical scrolling manner. What I would recommend is the max one is 50,000. Do that. And I would actually recommend changing the 800 to something like 1600, just so you have a little bit more room to work with, and it'll look a little bit better downscaled. I actually do 2400. And that's what I did for a while before I had EX. With the newer update 1.10, Clip Studio is really awesome for making webtoons. Like, it's the program basically to make webtoons. So if you go over here to the kind of webtoon use of work, you can make your own preset. I would recommend that. But they actually give you a whole bunch of different presets, kind of like this, to work with. So if I were to make one, I would do 2400 by 50,000. You can switch the resolution back to 300. I don't think it'll really benefit too much since you're going to downscale it anyway. And then down here, you can change the number of pages. I would say, 2 or 3. That's usually how much I use. And then press OK. And then, of course, you got to choose where you want to save it. And that'll make the different files. But I won't really go over that because you can just choose wherever you want to save it. And then wherever you want to save it to that, whatever you want to name it, like chapter 6 or 7, anything like that. I'll give it a couple seconds. And then it creates your story right here. So we'll click on this. This is going to be our first page, and then we just go ahead and get started. I know a lot of people, they use the kind of built-in tool with Clip Studio, and that's over here, the rectangle frame. I would recommend trying it out. I used to do this quite often, and what it does is you would probably make that a little bit bigger over here on the side. You change the brush size. We can do that right now. I would recommend about 12 usually for when I do boxes like that. And you would kind of have to do the math. If you're using 1600, it'd probably be like 8. And so what that does, it actually makes individual frames that you really can't draw outside of, and it makes it really cool, kind of like a masking effect to kind of segment your comic and make it so you don't really draw anything outside of that. It's cool. You can even do 3D models inside of it. So if we drag one in here, they're separate. I used to do this a lot, and I don't know if I'm going to go back to it. It's definitely a good way, and I really don't. I might have to go more over the pros and cons. I have a pretty high-end computer now, so it probably would be fine. But for a while, I didn't really have the best computer, so I used a different method. And that was, let's go ahead and get rid of all of this. I would actually just make an entirely new file. So we'll go back to here. Instead of making a giant file like this, I would make it 2400 by like 2000 or something, right? And then this is the whole panel, right? So then I would do my drawing here. I'd draw my character. I don't have my tablet on me, so this is my best mouse drawing right here. I'm sure let's give him some green pupils. I don't know. That's weird. And then I would save it. We'll just save it. Just put in our documents for now. Test. Test comic. And I would save it as a clip studio format file, a .clip file. And actually, once I was finished, I would save it as a JPEG, and then I would import it into this long file. And you might do that, and it might work. I'm gonna introduce a way that I didn't even know was possible, and it's really useful for not only comic making, just for anything you do in Clip Studio. And I always thought it was a feature. I just never knew what it was called. And that is, so I had an issue where I would draw the comic and I would import it and something would be wrong and I wanted to change it. So I'd have to resave the JPEG, delete that, and then re-put it back in. It was a big pain, right? So what you can do is when you go to File, Import, and instead of image, you do Create File Object. And then we go to our .clip file in our documents, and then we scroll down, Test Comic. Yep, Then I would just turn that off. Again, new computer, so it's not understanding everything. For whatever reason, it goes to the middle of the page. I want to look into that and see if I can change that. As far as I know, you can't, but who knows? Clip Studio is pretty great. It's very customizable. So yeah, there it is. Now you might say, how is that any different from a JPEG? You just imported the .clip file. So say we move it up to here to be our first panel. And then you would also do an outline, a border effect right here. And then I would again bump that up to 12. Get our black and switch that to black. And there we go, that's our panel. But yeah, again, you might be wondering, how is that any different from importing the JPEG? We'll say this character be like, oh, we messed up. That character doesn't have green eyes. He has red eyes, whatever. So we go back to our original file. And if you would normally just use a JPEG, you would have to fix it, save it, and then import it back into the program, and it would kind of be a pain. So if we just save it and then go back here, it's already changed. If it's not, what you can do is if you get the 3D tool, you select it, and then go over here, you press the Update File Object. If they're both open, it usually updates itself. But you can just press that and it should update in real time. Again, with this 3D tool, it's really cool because you can do a lot of different things. You can open where it is. You can just even replace it with a different picture entirely. So if you just don't like that for whatever reason, you can just switch it really easily. And that's what I use to make all of my comics. Well, all my singular comic. I did this previously with some other comics that I did. And I think that's probably one of the best ways to go about it if your art style, if how you do things is more similar to me, where you kind of just like focusing on one panel at a time. If you were if you were sketching out all your panels at once, it might be better just to do it on here. But I would just think about how you want to go about making your comic, I guess. There really is no right or wrong answer. Just whatever works best with your workflow. So again, that's how I do it. I'll probably keep using this method for a while. It is very effective, but I kind of want to eventually, once I kind of can stop worrying about my art, because that's kind of my biggest concern right now, is kind of trying to prove my art. Once that's up to snuff, I think I'm going to start focusing more on the dynamics of the actual comic. And what I mean by that is kind of just not having everything just be in boxes, just having kind of a little bit more dynamic lines, kind of like, we'll get like, lines like that, or, like our panels in there, and then there's like there's a person shot right here, just so it's like more fun to read. That's not my biggest concern right now. If that was a big concern for you, and I think it is a pretty big concern, but I think improving your art is definitely more important. And actually just getting it out there is definitely more important than this. But I might make videos on this again on how to kind of make your comics a little bit more dynamic. And if you probably wouldn't use this method all the time, you could definitely do it half and half. Well, the other half, you just kind of drawing outside the box and just kind of make a new layer and then just kind of drawing on top of it and sketching on top of it. All right, so you got all your sketches done. I only have one panel right here, but let's just pretend we have all this awesome artwork or whatnot. I'll actually just grab a comic that I actually don't have any words in it, just panels. Hold on. All right, so this is chapter 6 of my comic. I haven't put the words yet. Um, so this is kind of what you would get once it's all done with your panels. And as you can see, they're all in their .clip files, and they all go back to a certain .clip file. So now we're going to go ahead and add the words. How I do it is I grab my text, of course, over here. And then you're going to have a plethora of different options typically. When you first choose your fonts, it'll be probably this. What I like to do is if you go into the settings right here, you can actually make a new comic list and then just kind of call it whatever you want. I call mine comic. And then in that, you can choose what fonts you want to show up on your list. I only have a couple. I have a Banger, what I use for my thumbnails, and CC Astro City. It's an okay font. There's another font I use. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's Manga Template. I'm not 100% sure. I'll look it up. Links will be in the description down below if you want to download them. They're really good ones. CC Astro City is a pretty good font as well. So anyway, we'll go ahead and select. We'll go back to our comic, Astro City. And I use a black background. I don't know if I'd recommend that. I think though as I'm reading it, I'm like, I think the white is fine. I'm trying to be thematic. I don't know if it's working. And then pretty much, you just type in your text. Hello, what is up? Exclamation point. And then just drag it where you want it. So say she's saying it, right? And then with that is I noticed webtoons are very based off manga and even Korean webtoons, obviously, and their languages are read up and down, right? With kanji and all that. And what ends up being is that the thought bubbles are a lot condensed. They're a lot longer up and down than they are wider, how like English would be read. And it actually works better, especially since it's like a vertical format. So that's why I would recommend. So with this, I would probably do an enter sign out there and put it all centered like this. And then that I would put the text just outside the picture. And I would have that instead of it just being out really long like that. It'll look a little bit better. And then we go to our balloon tool here. Again, I usually use about 12. You kind of have to experiment, especially with whatever size resolution you're working with. So we got the rounded balloon. It's a pretty good one because you can just do whatever and then make the balloon. If you don't like where the text is at, you grab the 3D tool and kind of move it up. Yep. And then if you think the balloon's too big, you click it with the 3D tool and you can kind of make that whatever size you want. And that actually won't change the text size at all. So example like that. So that'd be pretty much it. That's a text bubble right there. And then when we go back to our balloon tool, if we do the balloon tail, and then we probably have to mess with the line. Let's say like 110. That seems pretty good. And then drag it out from there. There we go. Speech bubble. Amazing. And that's pretty much it for speech. It takes a while, especially when you have a lot of dialogue going on. And that's pretty much all you would do for that. There's a lot of different things you can do for like thoughts when people think something and you don't want it to be a speech bubble. What I used to do is the ellipse tool, and then I would have it be white on the outside and then black on the inside. So kind of like this. And that works. I didn't really like it though. It wasn't self-explanatory. You don't want to have to like read a comic and then you have to explain how to actually read it. It should be kind of intuitive. Well, so what I have been doing for whenever someone's thinking something, I use a modified sea urchin tool. So if we go to the flash over here, and then sea urchin flash, and then we got to switch these back. And I would recommend messing with these settings a lot. Here's my settings right here if you want to copy them. I mess with them daily, it feels like, because it just never feels right to me. There was a preset I found and I lost it, and it annoyed me. But basically what it does, it kind of makes this shape, and it kind of looks, and that's typically what you see as, someone's thinking something in webtoons for whatever reason. I don't know who started it, but there's a lot of comics that do it. And a lot of times they'll actually just they'll turn the gap up like this. So it'll be more like that. So you kind of just have to mess with it, whatever you like. But that's what I would probably use for kind of a thought bubble. All right, so you have all your pictures done. You have all your text and thoughts and all that good stuff. What about effects? For if you're making an action comic or you're making just anything where you want sound effects, I would recommend putting them in. What I would always do for a while is I would do the English version of what was happening. So if like someone's getting punched, I would type in hit or ouch or something like that. And it's weird because as growing up as someone who pretty much only read manga, I would usually only see, the sound effects in Japanese, in kanji. And I wouldn't really think about it, I guess. I would just know that they were sound effects. I wouldn't really know what they're saying. So when I would type hit or something like that, it kind of looked weird to me because I was like, why is there sound effects? And you could do it different ways like this, maybe make it bigger. Probably you wouldn't use hit. That's probably not the greatest onomatopoeia. But you kind of get the gist. I think a previous chapter I used shatter. And it's kind of basic. What I would do if you're going to do it like this is you would rasterize it, and then filter, blur, motion blur. Just kind of give it like some oomph, I guess. Make it look in motion. That could be a whole video, just making SFX words. Because I eventually probably will try to draw them and kind of make them look cool. But until then, what I have been doing is just not really worrying about them, I guess. And I've been actually, I think I have one right here. Yeah. I used the built-in SFX with Clip Studio. So if we open up our 3D materials and all that good stuff, if you go to manga materials, you should be able to find all of these kind of action words scattered around, kind of like this. I think they look pretty good, and you can kind of get the right feel. And I don't know. Well, I'll kind of see if people like it or see if it's kind of distracting. Something like this looks really cool, I think. I don't have it downloaded on my computer right now. Again, newer computer. But you would just kind of be able to drag and drop it once you've downloaded it. And I guess I didn't really mention this before too, but there's a lot of cool stuff you can grab from this. Whenever someone's yelling, I usually grab one of these and throw it down. And then you can kind of mess with it. I usually would like flip it or something. And then if you go over here, you can change the brush size to be the size you want, like 12. And then you can put your text in there. And that seems to work a little bit better than trying to make your own. And when someone's yelling or something like that or gasping, it's usually kind of a good idea to make the speech bubble kind of match that as well. All right, so your comic is all done. All your panels look awesome. All your text and whatever looks awesome. So now I'm going to go and show you how I export it and upload it to Webtoon. And if you notice this over here looks a little bit different, it's because I was previously using an older version of Clip Studio. And instead of re-recording, I just said we'll use the magic of editing to fix it. So I made sure to get the newer version. So if we go to File, Export Webtoon, go ahead and click that. Up here is where you can choose where you want to save it as. I would just save it to a folder where you can easily get it. If your comic isn't that big, I actually had an issue where I think you can only upload up to 20 megabytes per episode for Webtoon, and I was hitting. I think all the files together were like 22. So it was very close. If it's small, like if it's like sub 50 panels, you can probably get away with just using PNG. The files are going to be bigger, but it'll probably be fine. But if they are big, I would switch it to JPEG, and then you can kind of just bump it down to like 99, and it'll save you so much more room compared to just 100. Typically, I just use PNG because my chapters are usually pretty short. And this is where you can kind of mess with everything. You can change this. I like to specify a width to make it exact. Webtoon wants 800. And then sometimes it'll be automatically set to specific pages or specify pages. And it's kind of cool if you want to just do certain pages. But I would make sure all pages is clicked. And then right here, you can do that separately, whatever. I would recommend divide vertically, and then switch that to 1280. That'll give you the number of pages. And we'll kind of just go through the whole process, and we'll actually just upload this to my chat or to my account. So we'll just go ahead through the whole process. Depending on how many pages you have, it might take a while. So we'll make a new folder, chapter 6, mock. But for me, it'll probably only take a couple of seconds. So go ahead and press OK. All right, and computer's spinning. I might be lying. It might take more than a couple seconds. I've had it. It's kind of weird. Sometimes it'll be instantaneously, and then sometimes it'll do this. Yeah, and then sometimes it'll bring that up. I want to say one time I just pressed it and then it was just done. It's very weird. There's no in between. It'll either take forever or it'll take a couple seconds. Oh well. But we'll just let that export. All right, so it's done exporting. All right, so now we're on Webtoon. I'm not going to go through how to make an account. You should probably be able to figure that out yourself. And a lot of this is pretty self-explanatory. You should be able to figure it out. But if we go to our dashboard, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Let me go add episode, chapter 6, episode 6, call it whatever you want. Select files to upload. We'll go ahead to our documents, chapter 6 mock. And then you can either do that, or I like to do Control A. That usually gets the best results, or Command A if you're on Mac. And open them up and wait for them to upload. And then once it's uploaded, make sure to add your characters note. Of course, I always preview as much as I can because I am prone to grammar mistakes. I'm sure everyone is. I would definitely recommend getting someone else to read it, and you can kind of see. So this is kind of cool. Like, you can kind of see it didn't really like blend very well right there. So that's kind of good to look at because this is a downscaled version of it. So you can kind of see if anything looks a little wonky to you. And then I wish eventually there would be a way you can actually preview this on your phone, because reading on your phone and reading on your PC are very different experiences. So I don't know how they'll eventually be able to do that. I kind of just want to have an admin account on your phone, I guess. I don't really know how to explain it. I might make that another video of my most wanted features added to Webtoon. So if you have any ideas, please let me know about that. So that's it for this video. If you learned anything new, please let me know in the comments down below. If you think I missed anything, or if you have any tips and tricks of your own that you think I would benefit, and you think anyone watching this video would benefit from, please let me know. And again, if you liked what you saw, if you learned anything, please hit that subscribe button. It definitely helps me out. And I'll see you guys all in another video.